You want me to move it closer?
Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, September 10th edition of the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, and Cemetery Commissioners meeting. First, I have a disclosure to read. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 20, and the Governor's executive orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, although a quorum of the members of the Dudley Board of Selectmen will be physically present for this meeting, no in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. The meeting will be live broadcast on Dudley Cable Access Television Channel 192, and members of the public can also access the meeting online via YouTube. In the event of an unanticipated interruption in this broadcast, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Members of the public who wish to appear before the Board of Selectmen must make an appointment to appear on an upcoming agenda by contacting Michelle Jervis at 508-949-8001 or by emailing selectmen@dudleymat.gov. Placement on the agenda is not guaranteed, however, and persons requesting to appear before the Board of Selectmen should not attend the meeting in person unless and until the appointment has been confirmed by the Board of Selectmen. Persons with matters appearing on a meeting agenda may request that they attend by virtual means, such as conference call, rather than in-person attendance. Such requests should be directed to Michelle Jervis at 508-949-8001 or by emailing selectmen@dudleyma.gov no more than 72 hours, not counting Saturdays, Sundays, or legal holidays, in advance, so that appropriate arrangements can be made. However, persons or representatives with matters appearing on the meeting notice agenda who wish to be physically present at the meeting must observe the following requirements. Only 10 people, including board committee members and staff, will be permitted in the meeting room at one time. Satellite rooms will be available for overflow, and the meeting will be broadcast in real time in those satellite rooms. Total capacity in each room will be limited to 10 persons. Persons who wish to participate in any particular matter on the meeting agenda will be asked to wait in the satellite room until that agenda item is reached, at which point attendees will be rotated between the main meeting room and the satellite rooms as appropriate. Again, the total number of persons in any room, including the main meeting room, shall be limited to 10 people at any one time. Social distancing must be maintained in both the main meeting room and in satellite rooms. Face masks or coverings will be required in accordance with Governor Baker's May 1st, 2020 COVID-19 Order Number 31, order requiring face coverings in public places where social distancing is not possible. A copy of that order can be found at https://www.mass.gov/doc/May1-2020 masks and face covering/download. Failure to comply with these requirements may lead to an attendee's removal from the meeting. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
United States of America. The Republic.
One nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
We have Mr. Sullivan who would like to join remotely. Can I have a motion to allow him in?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Marcy, aye.
Carrie Siganovich, aye. Welcome, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you all.
First up, we have candidates for Highway Superintendent. We have a 6:15 appointment with Christopher Spahl.
Do you want to, Mr. Chairman, assign a question for Mr. Sullivan to ask, seeing that he hasn't been updated?
Yes, everyone seems to like question number 8. Mr. Sullivan, could you ask question number 8 on the list, please, when it comes to that time?
Sure.
Excellent, thank you. We'll start with Mr. Joseph with number 1, and we'll just come this way and just keep going.
I think anybody should ask a question that they feel strongly about, and it doesn't need to be in 1 through 10 order, as long as we get to all the questions.
I just thought if we went in like a volleyball, just so everyone can ask. Good evening, Mr. Spahl.
Good evening, how are you?
Excellent, thank you. Would anyone like to take question one? Are you ready to begin?
I just want to be sure before we start that you know that we'll be asking the same questions of every candidate. And however, we may have follow-up questions that might be asked only of you, and that would be based on your experience or some of your answers. Have you seen a copy of the job description?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to take the first question?
I'm all set for now.
You're all set for now? Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Spahl, could you tell us about yourself, your education, experience, and interest in this position?
Sure. I graduated Shepherd Hill High School. I did a year at Nichols College in Dudley, and then after that I did a year at Quinsigamond Community College in Worcester. I left school to start a family and worked my way through construction industry after that in a family business. What interests me in this position is I was born and raised in Dudley, and I always loved this town. And when I saw the opening, I thought it would be a great way to continue my career in the construction field and to work in the town of Dudley to better the community.
What would your last supervisor say about your performance?
Hard worker, goal-oriented, would never leave a task unfinished, willing to work extended hours without worry.
Okay. Are you good, Mr. Johnson? Thank you. I'll ask the second one. Mr. Spahl, could you explain how your education and experience matches the job description?
Well, I feel the majority of my construction experience, working-wise, has been in all road and utility construction work, which would benefit, majority of the highway work is all, road work. My education in management would help between managing the men and women that work for the town underneath myself and helping manage the goals of the business side of things and also the labor side of things.
Anyone have a follow-up? No? Mr. Marcy, could you ask the third question?
Sure. Hey, Chris, third question is, what licenses or certifications do you have relative to this position?
I have a Massachusetts hoisting license. I am OSHA 10 certified, MSHA certified, confined space entry certified. And I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's about it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that list one more time?
Massachusetts hoisting license, OSHA 10 certified, MSHA, confined space entry.
Thank you.
Mr. Joseph, did you have something?
Yeah, can you tell us about your experience in budgeting in the construction field? And how many employees have you managed at one time, doing what kind of tasks?
Sure, to start with the second one. Currently, right now, I manage a crew of 5 men, including myself. I've had crews as large as 6 to 8 on certain bigger jobs. And when it comes to budgeting, currently the position I'm in, we work on a scale basis, as in it's by the job. It's not actually, we're gonna give you a small budget to work with. It's based on, we need to get production to get paid. As budgeting wise, I would see that my experience in running a small family business and the education management side that I had would help create working with the budget.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Certainly.
There's a big distinction between staying within a budget that you're given and developing a budget, either that you initiate developing that budget, or that you have responsibility for submitting a budget versus following a budget. Can you draw that distinction for us from your experience?
I would say that having to submit a budget would definitely depend on what the tasks at work need to be, whether, what projects you have in the future that you need to budget for, what man-hours you need to budget for, the equipment you need to budget for. And the difference between that and being given a budget would be, if you are given a budget to work with, you have to manage your man-hours, your equipment, the materials and supplies that you need to work underneath that budget and control everyone to make sure it comes into the budget.
Let me continue with it. That's, you drew a nice distinction between the two. Initiating and developing a budget on your own versus successfully working within a budget. Can you give us an idea of some of the budgets, either by size or by nature, that you were responsible for developing that budget?
I have worked on a $500,000 Mass DOT frame and cover project, and that ran from Cambridge to Boston. And we were responsible for maintaining and raising all the telecommunications, manhole frames and covers on that state project. And we had to keep our man hours and our equipment hours and all the supplies needed to do the job under a certain budget to make sure that the company profited and hit their profit margin within that job.
Okay, so I still didn't hear the distinction. Have you ever, in the construction field, have you ever developed a budget solely that you initiated, or have you been part of a team that developed a budget? And the key is the word develop.
Yes, the budgets are mainly developed far above the position that I currently hold right now.
Okay, and that's a good, fair answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
Number 5, anyone would like to ask that one?
That was 5.
Did you ask the second part of that question, Mr. Joseph?
Employee management?
Yep.
I think he did.
Okay, collective bargaining.
I think he did, but he said
That's at the
that
end.
he's got a crew of 4 that he manages plus himself.
Oh, no, he's asking 5 now.
No, he did, but I didn't hear anything about, can I ask a follow-up?
Certainly.
Are those union workers?
Our company is an open shop. They're
Okay.
mixed between union and non-union.
Okay. Okay. And you have both, a mix of both on your team?
Yes, the last 5 years, I've been working side by side with union and non-union.
Okay. All right, good, thanks.
So we're on to number 6.
Well, before we go there, again, he just gives really good answers that cause us to think about follow-ups. Have you ever had a grievance filed against you from a union employee?
No.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Next up is, could you please expand upon your municipal experience and how it relates to this position?
I do not have any municipal experience. The majority of my work has all been street and utility work. We've worked for municipalities and for state, but never myself have never worked for the municipality.
Any
I'd like to give him a
follow-ups?
chance to help himself, if I may.
Certainly.
How close how close can you come to municipal experience?
I would say the state projects that we had worked on would be, the closest I've been. We're working under their requirements, their guidelines, safety regulations, work regulations, certain specs for materials.
Okay.
Mr. Marcy?
Can I also follow up on that municipal question? What about Chapter 90? Do you ever deal with any Chapter 90 state, when it comes to the state and budgets?
Not my side, like I said, the budget stuff usually was far above my head. I usually got the work orders and
Okay,
I never really had to deal with any of that.
okay. You executed. All right, thanks.
Everyone's good? On to number 7. Anyone like to ask that? or-
Describe a time when you dealt with a stressful situation. How did you handle yourself emotionally, etc.?
Stressful situations, especially in a labor-related workforce, a lot of times you need to just stop, step back, take a deep breath, look at the big picture, what's going on, why is the stress being caused, and overcome, adapt. That's usually how I try to look at everything. No matter what's thrown at you, if you can sit back, look at it, overcome it, and adapt to the situation, you usually move forward pretty well.
We're good? Mr. Sullivan, could you ask number 8, please?
Yeah. How do you organize and prioritize your workload?
The workload is usually organized by what the task at hand would be, and looking at your workforce and your labor force and knowing their strengths and where you can put them in what situation will they best succeed at.
Follow-up?
Certainly.
Based on what you know about the highway superintendent's position in Dudley, how would you expect to prioritize your job as highway superintendent in terms of tasks?
I would say it'd obviously be broken down into the different seasons of the year. You have a different tasks that are done during the winter time with snow and ice management. Springtime, obviously, you have road cleanups and all the jobs that need to be done, and then your summer years, that summer months are the majority of the time when you're digging and all the work can be done. And then obviously fall, you start prepping towards winter, and I would say the tasks would definitely change and need to be reorganized with every season.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else?
I do have a follow-up.
Certainly.
When we were reviewing the questions, we had a good discussion about prioritization. In my experience, prioritization usually means either you're assigned too much work and there's probably a negotiation that has to happen, or secondly, you got a little behind and you got to get the important stuff done. Have you had a situation, either one of those situations, and how did you deal with it?
I would say, yeah, being able to prioritize the importance of a job, or where you say, if you have handed a week's worth of work and you understand that, all right, these 3 things need to get done first, you're going to take your best workers that are set for that job and schedule that for the beginning of the week or the beginning of the month or however that work needs to quickly be finished. And I've come across multiple times when there are certain things that have to be maybe pushed aside a little bit so that you can take care of certain tasks that might have a higher agenda put on it and need to be done quickly.
We're all good? Number 9 is tell us about your experiences with successfully obtaining grant funding.
Obtaining grant funding, the only grants I've ever obtained were I spent a few years as Vice President of the South County Papawana League. We maintained several grants on the state and federal level to buy equipment and uniforms for the kids, and we were very successful in turning that league around in the 2 years that I was there. On the construction side of my end, I don't have to apply for grants. We are funded by a Fortune 500 company that I personally work for, so we don't have to apply for grants. We go after contract work on that.
Follow-up?
Certainly, Mr. Joseph.
What role did you play in writing the grants for the Papawana?
I wrote them myself.
Okay? Thank you. Can you tell us, out of curiosity, how much each of the grants was for?
They ranged anywhere from $500 to $3,000 at the time, for buying equipment and uniforms for the kids.
Thank you.
I've got a follow-up. I didn't notice that on your resume anywhere. What years were you doing that?
That was in 2014 and 2015.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Anyone, Mr. Marcy?
I'll take 10. Chris, can you please share a time where you willingly took on additional responsibilities or challenges? And then the second part is, how did you successfully meet all the demands of these responsibilities?
I would say on a work basis, it happened weekly. You know, everyone works a 40-hour week. Well, in the field that I work in, it's usually more of a 60 to 90-hour week. There are, calls that come in at 2 in the afternoon, hey, we need a night crew tonight to work, or we have an emergency going on, we need a crew to go there. That happens on almost an everyday basis. And it's another thing, overcome and adapt, all right? Get the guys ready to go, are they willing to work? Do you need to find other people to come in and help you? And that's when you just change it into another gear and you take care of what you have to do. And can you repeat the second part of that question?
It was, how did you successfully meet all the demands of those responsibilities?
Well, that's another thing where it just comes down to sometimes it's the physical aspect of it. Does your body need a rest to continue to move? Mentally, can you handle the stress that's taken on that job? And I believe I handled it well in the past, 5 years of working in the city of Boston. There's many stressful things that happen on a daily basis in that city, and there's extremely high requirements put on by the city of Boston themselves, and you have to follow those guidelines to a strict T.
Good, no, thanks for that.
Mr. Joseph?
I have a final follow-up, based on, his responses, all of his responses, or most of them. What aspects of your communication skills do you believe, going up the ladder and down the ladder, do you believe you need to improve?
I would say public speaking I was never really all that great at. I can be comfortable in certain situations, but
Say again?
public speaking,
Yeah, I got that.
and I can be comfortable in certain situations, but I never really excelled at public speaking. When it came to business transactions, face-to-face, dealing with customers, dealing with representatives from companies, dealing with higher, supervisors or higher management of companies, I always excelled well. I feel like I can speak to people very well, and improving wise, I would say public speaking would be the part that I really need to improve on.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Mr. Marcy?
I'd like to follow up on Mr. Joseph's question. So in this role, you'll be the superintendent, so you'll be the face of this department, and you'll be here every other Monday giving updates, with people watching like they are now, and, sometimes the topics can be challenging. Bad storm, the roads, it was hard, there was contractors didn't come in, it just took longer to clear them. The recycling center is a hot button item right now.
Yeah, I've heard about that, yes.
As you're probably aware. How do you think you'll handle that?
I wouldn't have an issue with that. Like I said, it's something that I've been growing on the past few years, we've been working on, and, I feel like there wouldn't be an issue with that whatsoever.
Okay. Good, no, thanks for being honest on that.
Oh, no problem.
Anything else? Anything else? Well, those were all of our questions.
I even got in, I probably answered the question that I always answer since we have a little time, is, one thing that, we don't know about you, and it was the Pop Warner thing, I think is what you said, that you turned the league around.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
not
that was a big thing for me. I grew up playing in that league.
Right.
And when I was a kid, we had 2 divisions in every, 2 teams in every division of that league, and it was great. My whole family grew up playing, our friends did. I graduated high school playing football with kids that I started playing Pop Warner with, when we were 8, 10 years old. And when my son was growing up, he started joining the league, and I started coaching, and then, right away, they needed, people to fill in with the board, and I jumped into it wanting to help with that because, I wanted to see that league turn around because it was so successful when I was a kid, and we wanted to make it that way again. And unfortunately, today, it hasn't turned out too well, but at the time, we did what we could in the few years we were there.
Yeah, well, no, thanks for sharing that. I always ask, like I said, I always ask someone like something we might not know about you. That's good, thank you for that.
Mr. Johnson?
Do you have any questions for us?
Well, one of the questions that I had for you was, what do you expect out of your highway superintendent on a, what exactly are you looking more for a grant writer? Are you looking more for a worker? Explain to me what exactly you're looking for.
The answer is always yes. So we start with a job description,
Yes,
and this is, there's quite a bit in there.
yeah,
Personally, my favorite part comes under complexity. Let's see, assignments typically involve evaluation, interpretation of factors, conditions, or unusual circumstances, inspecting, testing, or evaluating compliance with established standards or criteria, gathering, analyzing, and evaluating facts or data using specialized fact-finding techniques. What we're hoping is to use the tools that you have or that you want to have and you're willing to train on to understand the problems facing this position, the organization under you, and generating systems and best practices that either exist or need to be created that can generate value for the town. The town has expectations that comes both from taxpayers, people driving through, businesses, assorted boards, and it's going to be a balancing act. So, you talked about prioritization. You talked about understanding what's important. That comes real quick. So, the job description is a great 20-page read that has a lot of stuff in it. But in the end, it's about creating a stable environment and solving the problems that you face. So that's my personal opinion. We didn't pre-script that, so.
Oh, no.
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, my response is honesty. Someone who can clearly communicate, and that's why I asked the question, because communication is key. If the workers don't know precisely what you want, then you can't expect them to do it. In addition to that, based on the past, we must have someone who understands that you can be friendly with your employees, but you are not their friend as highway superintendent. And you've got to be able to draw the line between personal and professional behavior and relationships. If you can't do that, withdraw from the position.
Be good with follow-ups?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a great question. Like, what do I see this role being? I mean, like, you're a department head. You're gonna work through budgets with us and the other teams, your peers, police chief, fire chief. Everybody's, trading off, what's really important for the town as we, set something from year to year that we have to put in front of the taxpayers. That's a big duty, right? So I see there's a fiduciary component, and then there's taking that budget and actually making stuff happen, like with what we have, right? We do the best we can with what we have in Dudley,
yes.
right? And this department of all has been one that's done probably the most of that. Fixing our own stuff, making the stuff go a little bit further, a little bit of maintenance as they go along. So it's the actual management of projects, I would say, actual doing the work and managing people, and just being a good town official. right? Someone stops you on the street and, you tell them, they're gonna tell you what's important, or they're gonna be real angry about something, you can, I think you'd be able to handle that, you're face to face, I think you'd be pretty strong, but that's what I see this role as, someone who has, there's a finance component, there's a actual, managing people component, and then, being a good steward of Dudley. That's what I see it.
Finally, if you need to know or would like to know what the hiring process is in terms of timeline and process from here, I'm sure that the chairman and the town administrator can provide you with that information if you'd like it now.
Sure, if you don't mind it sharing that.
Do you have a more specific question about that? The
no,
timeline is essentially, we're up against the November 10th retirement. That having been said, we're not going to make a decision that is not the right one for the town, even if we had to extend it or whatever the case may be. But we would like to get the position filled in time for that retirement and to have a transition period as well, so.
Fair enough.
Mr. Sullivan, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think some of it was already covered, but I really couldn't catch it all, so Mr. Spahl could speak up into the mic. And I know you guys touched on it, but I have three questions. I heard Paul ask a question about a grievance. I'd like to know Mr. Spahl's experience with union work, and on his licensing, on his resume. Does he not have a CDL or the hoisting license? He does have mass hoisting, but not a CDL. Does he demonstrate computer knowledge? I heard Mr. Massey talking about budgeting and working with the Board of Selectmen, experience computer-wise on some of the reports and spreadsheets you may or may not have to prepare.
On the first question, I have never had a grievance filed against me, whether it be a union or non-union employee. The second question, I do not hold a Mass CDL license. And on the third question, yes, I have computer, I wouldn't say extensive, but more than average computer experience when it comes to whether it be tablets, laptops, computer programs, Microsoft.
Okay.
What was the answer to the first one about the union work, Chris?
That would, I have never had a grievance filed against me, whether it be union or non-union.
Okay, so the company you currently work for, the foreman's not in the union, you're out of the union? Or the foreman is in the union, they can still grieve you?
Yeah, there's multiple union and non-union foremen. I can also have union laborers or union operators or union drivers working underneath me. And I've never had a grievance with any.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're all good? We're all good. Well, thank you, Mr. Spahl.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks,
As well.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
So if we got follow-up questions, if we think of a question after the interviews, we can still get questions to the applicants, correct?
Yeah, they're all gonna end up being follow-ups, Mr. Chairman, I would say, so I would